Come feed all the fishies with me, and I'll tell you a story about how I ended up with this lively bunch. So these are African cichlids, mainly. There's a few South American cichlids in there, like the jewels and whatever. I'm so sorry. They're very scared because they just saw selfie stick, and they don't like sticks. They're such smart fish. Actually, I've never actually owned such smart fish. So cichlids are a real hoot. They can see the selfie sticks. They don't like sticks because they're scared of the net coming in to get them. But yeah, these little puppies, they love their food, so it's very nice to play with them. But I'll feed you, don't worry, I'm not that cruel. So how I ended up keeping cichlids is, how I ended up keeping fish in general, is that I studied marine biology, never completed it. My life took a different turn altogether. And that was years ago. That was like what, I don't know, 20 years ago. I ended up doing something completely different and didn't really have fish until my kids were much older. My daughter came home one day and she said her friend has a bowl of guppies and they had babies. And the guppies, and she wanted to give her some babies. So guppies are teeny little fish, you all know. They're live barons, they're prolific breeders. And yeah, so she got 5 little guppies and she had them in a salad bowl in my lounge. And for her birthday, she asked her grandfather to buy her a tank. Watch me, they literally devoured the whole thing in 30 seconds. I need to clean the filters because I see that the substrate is not clean. So she asked her grandfather to buy her a tank. And so her grandfather bought her this cute little tank, 20 liter. And then I got into it more than she did, to be honest. I was the one obviously cleaning the tanks and feeding the fish and etc, etc. And the guppies grew up and started having their own babies. So yeah, this tank very, very quickly was overrun with guppies. And I also I remembered nothing about fish at that point. Yeah, don't forget I had 4 children in between, so my brain is a nice little mush of porridge. And I was learning it again. I was learning how to care for fish again. My father used to have fish tanks, but he had saltwater fish. I was learning how to look after fish again, and I was really loving it. And I brought in shrimp, and I saw this gorgeous, gorgeous dwarf gourami that I actually absolutely fell in love with. And I put it in there with the guppies. And yeah, they didn't like each other very much. And I told my husband I really need to get a bigger tank because first of all, they're outgrowing this tank. And I really, I think they need something bigger. So I looked for something on Facebook Marketplace. I actually never bought any of my tanks except for this one that my daughter got for her birthday. I never got any of the tanks from new. I always either got my tanks for free or bought them off of Facebook Marketplace for very, very, very good prices. So yeah, so my daughter, so I found this other tank, the tank that the cichlids are in the other room on Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, so she ended up with this tank, and I told my husband this is a small tank. It's way too small for what we need. The guppies are growing, having babies, and I want to plant some plants in there, and so it's gonna be beautiful. And I really want to make it like a gorgeous little tank. So I found on Facebook Marketplace, found this tank, which is a 400 liter tank, gorgeous. It was such a steal because the guy was moving to another house and he didn't want to take the fish. He's been keeping fish for 10 years and he's had enough. And it's got 2 canister filters, which are insane. They really handle the job. And it had the substrate, it had rocks, it had everything I needed, like a complete setup. And he gave it to me for like 50 quid. So it was a no-brainer. But the only thing he forgot to mention is that the tank comes with a fish in it. And I've never kept cichlids before. Mind you, at this point I've got 5 guppies and a gourami, and obviously some guppy babies, and a very pregnant guppy mama. And I'm like, and the guy, because he was like moving and he wasn't really turning on the lights in the tank, he wasn't really looking after it very well. Like, I mean, he kept it clean, he kept the fish happy and fed and alive, but they weren't thriving, and they all like didn't have their colors on. They were like gray and dreary, and I was telling my husband, you know, I really don't want the fish. Not my kind of favorite fish. I don't think I like these guys. They're just like, they look like fish you just fish with a rod in a pond or a river. And the guy was like, you know, if you don't take the fish, I'm gonna have to, you know, get rid of them somehow, not in a very nice way. So I'm gonna have to release them or something or whatever. But I can't keep them. I'm moving tomorrow. I've got no way of keeping these fish. So I said, okay. I took the fish. Okay, getting this tank over to our house was a thing. It takes like 4 guys to move this tank. It's so heavy. And we had to drive there twice. Mind you, it's a 30 minutes, okay, I'm exaggerating, 30 minutes drive each way, each time. And we had to go there twice. The first time I put the underneath cupboard and the filters and all in my car with a big 80-liter box of tank water and the fish. It didn't have this many fish back then. So I put all the fish in a big 80-liter tank, 80-liter clear plastic box, one of those heavy-duty box, and I drove them home, came back, and literally had to, like, I don't know how we got that tank here, but when we got home, I had to literally call 2 of my husband's friends to come and help us all move the tank, and it's been sitting here ever since, and I hope it never falls through the floor. But yeah, it's a very heavy tank even without water in it. So the fish were kept aside because I put the tank back on because obviously it was on in the guy's house and it was already cycled and it was a very established tank, so I didn't want to lose the beneficial bacteria in the filter. So I immediately set it up and filled it up with water, and I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna get some nice plants, I'm gonna get some different substrate because cichlid substrate is gets a bit grubby. And I'm gonna get some gorgeous, I'm gonna just design this tank so nice, and it's gonna have like tons of neon tetras and some algae eaters and I had like these big dreams for this tank, because I took the fish obviously because I didn't want them to die, but I wasn't planning to put them in the tank, just because it wasn't my vision. So I put the fish in the box, and the guy told me, listen, these fish are quite expensive. They go for like, and at their size, they go for like 15-20 pounds each fish, easy. So just give them, donate them or sell them off to your local pet store or fish store, and you know, make some money out of it, or even store credit or whatever. And I said, you know what, that's a good idea. And I came home the next day, I called around, and obviously by this point the fish are in a little bit of water, and they don't have a heater and they don't have a filter, and they were starting to do not so great, and they were starting to struggle a little bit. And I couldn't find for the life of me any pet store or fish store that will take them. One store told me, okay, bring them over for free. We can't give you any store credit, or we can't give you anything for it. And by this point, my husband kind of takes a fancy to this fish, and he says, you know what, it's much nicer looking at big fish rather than looking at tiny little guppies. And so I told him, okay, you know what, they're not faring too well, so let's put them in the water again, and I'll see what I can do with them. I'll see what I can sell them. And hold for part 2, because this is getting long. Hold for part 2. I'm gonna go and feed the other tanks, but goodbye to the cichlids for now.